The recruitment center on Terra Station buzzed with activity as thousands of young humans lined up for military processing. Commander Vex of the Galactic Defense Force watched through the observation deck, his 4 eyes scanning the crowd with practiced efficiency. As a Kelari officer, he had overseen countless recruitment drives across dozens of worlds, but humans always puzzled him. "Another batch of primitives," muttered Lieutenant Zora, a fellow Kelari standing beside him. "I don't understand why the Council insists on drafting from such a backward world." Vex clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "The humans have shown surprising resilience in ground combat. Their psychological profiles indicate unusual persistence in the face of overwhelming odds." Down in the processing hall, Maya Chen stood quietly in line, her dark eyes taking in everything around her. At 19, she was smaller than most of the other recruits, her frame lean but wiry. Unlike the others who chattered nervously or boasted about their training, Maya remained silent. She had learned long ago that observation served her better than words. The testing stations ahead hummed with alien technology. Each recruit was scanned, measured, and categorized with ruthless efficiency. Maya watched as the young man in front of her, built like a linebacker and full of confidence, was marked as Infantry Class B and sent to the left queue. The woman behind him, who had bragged about her martial arts background, received Combat Support Class A and joined the right queue. When Maya's turn came, she stepped forward and placed her hands on the scanning platform as instructed. The alien device hummed and clicked, streams of data flowing across its screen. The Kelari technician barely glanced at her as he read the results. Combat aptitude, minimal. Physical enhancement potential, below average. Previous military training, none detected. The technician's voice carried the bored tone of someone who had processed thousands of recruits. Classification: Support personnel. Untrained. Report to Station 7. Maya nodded and walked toward Station 7, ignoring the sympathetic looks from other recruits. She had expected this. On Earth, she had lived quietly with her grandmother in rural Montana, far from any military academies or training centers. She had no official certifications, no recorded achievements, no digital footprint that would impress an alien computer system. What the scanners couldn't detect was the decade she had spent with her grandmother, learning skills that had been passed down through generations of her family. Her grandmother had been a soldier once, though she rarely spoke of those days. Instead, she taught Maya through stories that seemed like folklore, through games that felt like play, through lessons disguised as daily life. Station 7 turned out to be a holding area for the lowest-ranked recruits. Maya found herself among a mix of humans who had been deemed unsuitable for frontline combat. There was Marcus, an overweight computer programmer who could barely do 10 push-ups. Sarah, a librarian who had never held a weapon. David, a college student who fainted at the sight of blood. "Well, this is just perfect," Marcus grumbled, settling his bulk onto one of the metal benches. "I volunteer to help defend humanity, and they stick me with dish duty." "At least we'll be safe," Sarah offered weakly. "Support personnel usually stay far from the fighting." Maya said nothing, but she noticed things the others missed. The way the guards moved with military precision, the subtle weapons hidden in their equipment, the fact that even support personnel were being issued basic combat gear. This wasn't going to be the safe assignment Sarah hoped for. 3 days later, they were loaded onto transport ships bound for the Outer Rim. The Hegemony War had been raging for 2 years, with the aggressive Hegemony forces pushing deeper into Alliance territory. Every available person was being deployed, regardless of their classification. The transport ship was a massive vessel designed to carry tens of thousands of beings from dozens of different species. Maya found herself in a cramped berth with 5 other humans, all classified as untrained support. The journey to the front lines would take 3 weeks, and Maya used every moment to learn. She studied the ship's layout, memorizing every corridor and access point. She watched the alien crew members, noting their behaviors and reactions. She listened to conversations in a dozen different languages, her mind unconsciously cataloging useful phrases and commands. Most importantly, she observed the military personnel aboard the ship, learning by watching their movements, their habits, their techniques. Her bunkmate turned out to be Elena Vasquez, a former park ranger who had been classified similarly low despite her outdoor survival skills. Unlike the others, Elena had also noticed Maya's constant observation. "You're not what you seem, are you?" Elena asked quietly one evening, as they lay in their bunks. Maya turned to look at her. "None of us are. The others think we're going to be loading supply crates and running messages. But you know better. The war isn't going well," Maya said simply. "They wouldn't be shipping every warm body to the front lines if they had enough trained soldiers." Elena nodded. "My classification said I was untrained too. But I spent 15 years tracking poachers through some of the most dangerous terrain on Earth. I know how to move unseen, how to survive in hostile environments, how to make decisions when lives depend on it. The scanners can only detect what's in official records," Maya agreed. They missed a lot. Over the following days, Maya began to quietly identify others whose classifications didn't match their true capabilities. There was James, labeled as minimal combat potential, who had actually spent years in underground fighting tournaments. Lisa, marked as support only, had been raised on a frontier world where everyone learned to shoot before they learned to read. But her family had never registered with any government agency. The Kellery and other alien officers seemed unaware that their human cargo contained hidden depths. They saw only the data from their scanners, the official records that painted most of the humans as barely adequate cannon fodder. Everything changed when they reached the Kepler front. The transport ship dropped out of hyperspace into a system under siege. Warning klaxons immediately began blaring as the ship's sensors detected hostile hegemony vessels throughout the system. The captain, a four-armed centauri, came over the communications system with barely controlled panic in his voice. "All personnel to emergency stations. We are under attack." This is not a drill. Through the small porthole in their compartment, Maya could see the flashes of weapon fire in the distance. Massive capital ships were engaged in deadly combat, their energy weapons lighting up the void. But more concerning were the smaller attack craft that seemed to be heading directly for their transport. The ship shuddered as the first enemy shots found their mark. Emergency lighting bathed everything in red as the main power systems fluctuated. Maya could hear shouting in the corridors, the sound of running feet, and alien voices raised in panic. "We're sitting ducks," Marcus moaned, his face pale with fear. "We don't even have weapons." But Maya was already moving. She had spent 3 weeks learning the ship's layout, and she knew exactly where the emergency armories were located. More importantly, she knew that in a crisis, the automated systems would unlock them for any personnel wearing military identification tags. "Elena, James, Lisa." She called quietly to the others she had identified as truly capable. "With me." Where are we going?" Elena asked, but she was already following. "To do what we trained for," Maya replied. As they moved through the corridors, Maya's mind was calm and focused. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory, sharing stories of battles long past, lessons disguised as bedtime tales. The old woman had known this day would come, had prepared Maya for it in ways no military academy ever could. The transport ship shuddered again, this time more violently. Through the walls, Maya could hear the distinctive sound of hull breaches being sealed. They were running out of time. The emergency armory was in chaos when they reached it. Alien crew members were grabbing weapons and equipment with no apparent organization, their training clearly inadequate for actual combat. Maya stepped forward and began issuing quiet commands, her voice carrying an authority that surprised even her. "Elena, take the long-range rifles. James, grab the breaching charges. Lisa, you're on communications equipment." The weapons felt strange in her hands at first, their alien design unlike anything from Earth. But the principles were universal, and Maya's mind quickly adapted. Weight, balance, firing mechanism, reload procedure. Her grandmother had taught her that all weapons were essentially the same once you understood their nature. The ship lurched again. And this time, Maya heard something that made her blood run cold. The distinctive whine of boarding pods attaching to the hull. The hegemony wasn't just trying to destroy the transport. They were coming aboard. Maya looked at her small group of untrained humans, seeing the fear in their eyes but also something else. Determination. The same quality that had driven humanity to spread across the galaxy, despite being considered a primitive species by most of the other races. The first hegemony soldier through the breach was a Krex warrior, standing 8 feet tall, with natural armor plating and 4 arms ending in razor-sharp claws. The species was known throughout the galaxy for their savage combat prowess and complete lack of mercy. The alien's red eyes swept the corridor, expecting to find terrified civilians. Instead, Maya's plasma rifle bolt caught its center mass before it had taken 3 steps. The Krex warrior dropped without a sound, its armor smoking from the precision shot. Maya was already moving, flowing from her concealed position like water, her weapon tracking toward the breach where more enemies would emerge. Behind her, Elena, James, and Lisa moved with equal fluidity, taking positions they had never been trained for but somehow knew instinctively. Contact front, Maya called softly into her comm unit, using proper military terminology despite having no official training. Multiple hostiles, breaching, Section C-7. The response came back in rapid-fire Kellari. The bridge crew clearly panicked. Maya's mind automatically translated the alien words, another skill her grandmother had taught her through seemingly innocent language games. The ship's regular security forces were pinned down on the other side of the vessel, unable to respond. 2 more Krex warriors pushed through the breach, followed by a squad of hegemony shock troopers. These were professional soldiers, battle-tested and equipped with military-grade weapons. They should have overwhelmed 4 untrained humans in seconds. Should have. Maya's second shot took the lead Krex in the head with surgical precision. Elena's rifle spoke a fraction of a second later, her shot perfectly timed to catch the second warrior as it turned to identify the threat. James had positioned himself at the corridor junction, and his weapon found the first shock trooper before the enemy could establish a firing position. But it was Lisa who truly surprised them all. The young woman who had been classified as support only had somehow acquired a hegemony grenade during the chaos. With casual expertise, she armed the device and rolled it into the breach, just as another wave of enemies prepared to emerge. The explosion sealed the breach and eliminated 6 more boarders in one devastating blast. "Where did you learn to do that?" Elena gasped, staring at Lisa in amazement. "Frontier worlds," Lisa replied with a shrug. "When raiders attack your settlement, everyone learns to fight, or everyone dies." Maya was already moving toward the next potential breach point, her mind calculating angles and timing with mechanical precision. The hegemony boarding pods had attached at multiple points along the hull, and the ship's automated systems were reporting breaches in 5 separate sections. "This way," she called to the others, leading them through corridors that most of the ship's crew had probably never seen. Maya had memorized every maintenance tunnel, every emergency access route, every hidden passage during their 3-week journey. Now that knowledge was keeping them alive. They reached the next breach site just as the cutting torches finished their work. This time, Maya was ready with a different strategy. Instead of waiting for the enemies to emerge, she positioned her small team in a crossfire pattern that would catch the boarders in a deadly trap. The hegemony forces that came through this breach were different. Vorthan assassins. Known for their speed and stealth capabilities, they moved like shadows, their natural camouflage making them nearly invisible. Against trained Alliance soldiers, they would have been devastating. Against Maya, they found themselves facing something they had never encountered before. Her grandmother had taught her to hunt in the Montana wilderness, tracking prey that could disappear into the landscape like ghosts. More than that, she had learned to think like the animals she pursued, to anticipate their movements before they made them. The skills translated perfectly to hunting Vorthan assassins through the corridors of a damaged starship. Maya's first shot revealed an assassin that her teammates couldn't even see, the plasma bolt striking something that looked like empty air until the alien's camouflage failed and its body materialized around the smoking wound. Her second shot caught another Vorthan just as it prepared to strike Elena from behind. "How are you doing that?" James whispered, his voice filled with awe. "Heat signatures," Maya lied smoothly. The truth was more complex. A combination of intuition, pattern recognition, and skills that couldn't be easily explained. Her grandmother had called it reading the forest. The ability to sense when something was out of place, even if you couldn't see it directly. The battle continued to rage throughout the ship. Over the comm system, Maya could hear reports from other sections. The regular security forces were taking heavy casualties, their standard tactics proving inadequate against the hegemony's varied assault teams. Several sections had been completely overrun, and the bridge was considering surrender. That was unacceptable. "Elena, take Lisa and secure the engine room," Maya commanded, her voice carrying an authority that surprised even her. "James, you're with me. We're going to the bridge." "The bridge is 3 levels up and halfway across the ship," Elena protested. "The corridors between here and there are swarming with hostiles. Then we'll go around them," Maya replied simply. She led James through a maintenance shaft that connected directly to the ship's central power core, a route that bypassed the main corridors entirely. The shaft was barely large enough for a human to crawl through, but it was completely invisible to the ship's sensors and unknown to the hegemony forces. As they moved through the cramped space, James finally found the courage to ask the question that had been bothering him since the first battle. "Who are you really? And don't tell me you're just some untrained civilian from Earth." Maya paused in her crawling, considering her answer. "My grandmother was Colonel Sarah Chen, 1st Terran Rangers. She served in the colonial wars before most species even knew humans existed, but her service record was classified and buried after the conflicts ended." "And she trained you?" "Every day of my life, from the time I could walk. She told me stories about battles. But they weren't really stories. They were tactical lessons. She taught me to track animals, but she was really teaching me to hunt enemies. She showed me how to shoot for sport, but she was preparing me for war." James was quiet for a moment. Why was her record buried? Because the things the 1st Terran Rangers did during the colonial wars were too effective, too frightening. The other species in the Alliance decided that humans were too dangerous to be given advanced military training. So they classified our best soldiers and pretended they never existed. They emerged from the maintenance shaft near the bridge, where Maya could hear the sound of intense fighting. The regular security forces had barricaded themselves inside the command center, but hegemony assault troops were preparing to breach the armored doors. Maya studied the tactical situation with calm professionalism. 12 hegemony soldiers, mixed species, equipped with heavy weapons and explosive charges. They had taken positions that provided good cover from the bridge entrance but left them vulnerable from the flanks. "Can you handle 4 of them?" she asked James quietly. "4?" His voice cracked slightly. "Maya, I've never actually killed anyone before today." "Neither had I," she replied matter-of-factly. "But we adapt. That's what humans do." Maya's plan was elegant in its simplicity. She would create a distraction that drew the enemy's attention, giving James clear shots at the soldiers on the left flank while she eliminated the ones on the right. The timing had to be perfect, and the execution had to be flawless. The distraction came in the form of a maintenance robot that Maya reprogrammed using skills she had learned by watching the ship's technical crew. The robot rolled into view of the hegemony forces, immediately drawing their attention and weapon fire. In the 3 seconds it took them to realize it was a decoy, Maya and James struck. Maya's rifle fired 4 times in rapid succession, each shot finding its target with mechanical precision. James, inspired by her example, managed to take down 3 of his assigned targets before the 4th one could react. The remaining hegemony soldiers found themselves caught between the 2 humans and the defenders behind the bridge doors. The battle was over in less than 30 seconds. Commander Vex emerged from the bridge, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. The Kellery officer stared at Maya and James, then at the bodies of 12 elite hegemony soldiers scattered around the corridor. "How?" was all he managed to say. "We're human," Maya replied, as if that explained everything. And perhaps it did. Over the ship's comm system, Elena's voice crackled through with a report. "Engine room secured. We've got 5 hegemony engineers in custody, and their explosive charges disarmed." Lisa's voice followed. "Breaches in sections A through D are sealed. Remaining hostile forces are contained in section E." Commander Vex looked at Maya with new understanding. "You're not untrained at all, are you?" "According to your computers, we are," Maya said with a slight smile. "Your scanners can only detect official training, recognized certifications, recorded achievements. They can't measure the skills passed down through families, the knowledge learned in hardship, the abilities forged in places your databases never catalog. And there are more humans like you?" Maya's smile widened. "Commander, you've barely seen what untrained humans can do. Wait until you see what happens when we get properly equipped and start working as a team." The transport ship limped into port at Kepler Station 3 days later, its hull scarred but its cargo intact. Word of the battle spread quickly through the fleet. 4 untrained humans had repelled a full hegemony boarding assault, saving not only their own ship, but preserving critical supplies needed by the frontline forces. But Maya knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or numbers or even their famous stubborn persistence. It was their ability to be consistently underestimated by everyone who met them. As they disembarked at Kepler Station, Maya noticed the way the alien personnel looked at her and her companions. No longer with dismissal or condescension, but with a mixture of respect and wariness. Word had spread about the humans who were logged as untrained but fought like legends. Maya checked her orders for the next assignment. According to the official records, she was still classified as support personnel, untrained. But someone with real authority had handwritten a note at the bottom of her transfer papers. Special assignment. Report to Colonel Morrison. Human Advisory Unit. The war was about to enter a new phase, and Maya Chen was ready to show the galaxy what humanity could really do when it stopped pretending to be harmless. "The aliens think we're useless," she said quietly. "Let's show them what untrained really looks like." In the distance, she could hear the sound of cutting torches working through the hull. The hegemony boarding parties would be through in minutes, expecting to find helpless support personnel cowering in the corridors. Instead, they were going to find humans who had been underestimated their entire lives, led by a young woman whose true training had never appeared in any official record. Maya checked her weapon one final time and smiled grimly. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity had earned its place among the stars. Colonel Morrison was nothing like Maya had expected. The gruff, scarred veteran stood barely 5 feet tall. But her presence filled the briefing room like a physical force. Behind her, holographic displays showed the current state of the Kepler front, and the situation looked grim. "Chen, Vasquez, Williams, Santos," Morrison called out, using the real names that somehow she had discovered despite their official classifications. "6 weeks ago, you were logged as untrained support personnel. Today, you're being assigned to the most dangerous mission in Alliance space." Maya studied the tactical displays with professional interest. The hegemony had broken through Alliance defenses in the Tau Ceti system, threatening to cut off supply lines to 3 entire sectors. Standard Alliance forces had failed to stop the advance, and retreat seemed to be the only option. "The situation is simple," Morrison continued, her voice carrying the weight of hard experience. "Tau Ceti must be held. If it falls, we lose everything from here to the galactic core. But conventional tactics have failed, and conventional forces are insufficient." Elena raised her hand. "What makes you think 4 humans can succeed where entire fleets have failed?" Morrison's smile was cold as winter. Because you're not for humans. You're something the galaxy hasn't seen in 50 years. You're properly motivated human soldiers with nothing left to lose. The colonel activated another display, showing detailed intelligence about the hegemony forces in Tau Ceti. The enemy had established a fortress complex on the system's primary planet, protected by orbital defense platforms and garrisoned by their best troops. Taking it by direct assault would require forces the Alliance simply didn't have. Your mission is reconnaissance, Morrison said, though her tone suggested otherwise. You'll insert covertly, gather intelligence about enemy positions and capabilities, and report back. Nothing more. James looked skeptical. Just reconnaissance? With respect, Colonel, that doesn't require sending us specifically. You're right, Morrison agreed. It doesn't. But what happens after you complete your reconnaissance mission will require exactly your particular skills. The transport to Tau Ceti was a stealth vessel designed to slip past enemy sensors undetected. Maya spent the journey studying every detail of their destination, memorizing topographical maps and building layouts with the same intensity she had once used to learn her grandmother's lessons. The planet designated Tau Ceti III was a fortress world, its surface dominated by the massive hegemony military complex that housed nearly 50,000 enemy soldiers. The base was built into a mountain range, its deepest levels extending miles underground, and its surface bristling with defensive weapons that could destroy any approaching fleet. Maya's grandmother had once told her a story about an impossible fortress, and how a small group of soldiers had conquered it through patience, observation, and striking at exactly the right moment. At the time, Maya had thought it was just another bedtime tale. Now she understood it had been a tactical lesson. The insertion went flawlessly. Their stealth pod landed in a remote canyon 50 miles from the hegemony base, completely undetected by enemy sensors. Maya led her small team through terrain that reminded her of the Montana wilderness where she had learned to hunt, except here the prey could shoot back. For 3 days, they observed the enemy fortress from concealed positions, mapping patrol routes and identifying key vulnerabilities. Maya's report would have satisfied any normal reconnaissance mission, but as she studied the massive complex, her mind began working on a different problem entirely. This is impossible, Elena whispered on the third night as they watched enemy transports landing at the base's main airfield. There's no way 4 people could do any meaningful damage to that place. You're thinking too small, Maya replied quietly. We don't need to destroy the whole base. We just need to make it useless to them. Lisa looked puzzled. Maya pointed to a seemingly insignificant structure near the center of the complex. Command and control center. Everything else is just buildings and equipment. Cut off the head, and the body becomes useless. The command center is in the most heavily defended part of the base, James pointed out. We'd never get close. We would if they invited us in, Maya said with a slight smile. Her plan was audacious beyond belief. Instead of trying to sneak into the fortress, they would walk in through the front door. But first, they needed to become someone the hegemony would want to capture alive. The next morning, Maya's team began a systematic campaign of harassment against enemy patrols. They struck fast and hard, inflicting casualties and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. But instead of trying to remain undetected, Maya made sure each attack left clear evidence of human involvement. Within hours, the hegemony commanders became obsessed with capturing the human soldiers who were making their lives miserable. Patrols doubled, then tripled in size. Sensors were recalibrated to detect human life signs specifically. Reward bounties were posted for information leading to the capture of the mysterious human commandos. Maya had studied her enemies well during those 3 days of observation. She knew they were proud, arrogant, and completely convinced of their own superiority. The idea that 4 untrained humans could outwit their best soldiers was so insulting that it consumed their attention entirely. On the 5th day, Maya allowed her team to be surrounded. The hegemony patrol that captured them consisted of 20 elite soldiers, led by a Krex war chief, who had personally requested the honor of bringing in the troublesome humans. They found Maya and her companions apparently trapped in a box canyon, out of ammunition, and with no escape route. The surrender was perfect theater. Maya made sure she and her team looked defeated and exhausted, their weapons discarded, and their hands raised in submission. The Krek's war chief preened with satisfaction as he personally bound their hands with energy restraints. "Humans," he growled in accented Alliance standard. "You will tell us how many more of your kind are hiding on this world." "Just us," Maya replied truthfully. "We're a reconnaissance team. We got separated from our insertion group and have been trying to survive." It was exactly what the hegemony commanders wanted to hear. 4 lost humans, cut off from support, captured after a week of lucky strikes against overconfident patrols. The war chief's report made Maya and her team sound like minor nuisances, rather than serious threats. They were transported to the fortress complex in a standard prisoner transport, under guard that was professional, but not excessive. After all, they were just 4 untrained humans who had already been disarmed and restrained. The holding cells were exactly where Maya had expected them to be, based on her study of the base's layout. More importantly, they were less than 200 meters from the command center, connected by maintenance corridors that appeared on none of the base's official schematics, but were clearly visible to Maya's trained eye. The escape happened at 0347 local time, during the shift change when guard rotations were at their most chaotic. Maya had spent hours working at her restraints, using techniques her grandmother had taught her, disguised as meditation exercises when she was young. The energy cuffs that were supposed to be impossible to remove fell away like broken toys. Freeing her companions took another 10 minutes. Acquiring weapons from the guard station took 5 more. By 0400, they were moving through maintenance shafts that most of the base's personnel didn't even know existed. The command center was protected by redundant security systems, multiple checkpoints, and elite guard units. Maya bypassed all of them by taking a route that existed only in her memory. Through the fortress's water reclamation system, past its main power distribution hub, and into the command center's emergency ventilation network. When she dropped from the ceiling vent into the heart of hegemony operations for the entire sector, Maya found herself facing 12 enemy officers and technicians who were so focused on their strategic displays that they didn't notice her arrival for almost 30 seconds. "Good evening," she said politely, her weapon trained on the sector commander. "I'm here about your surrender." The hegemony officers turned as one, their faces expressing the universal emotion of complete disbelief. The sector commander, a massive Vorthan with cybernetic implants covering half his face, stared at Maya with incredulous rage. "You're the human prisoner from cell block 7, he snarled. "This is impossible." "That's what everyone keeps telling me," Maya replied. "But I keep doing impossible things anyway." "It's a human trait." "Ah." Elena, James, and Lisa emerged from other vents, their weapons covering the remaining officers. The command center's security doors were designed to keep enemies out, but they worked just as well to keep the current occupants trapped inside. "You cannot hold this position," the sector commander insisted. "This base houses 50,000 soldiers. You are 4 humans." "You're absolutely right," Maya agreed. "We can't hold this position, but we don't need to." She gestured to the massive strategic display that dominated the command center. "What we need is to send a message to every hegemony force in this sector, using your own communication systems, with your command codes. Ordering immediate withdrawal from Tau Ceti." Lokes matted. "We will never." Maya's plasma rifle spoke once, its bolt passing so close to the commander's head that it singed his cybernetic implants. "I'm not asking for your cooperation. I'm telling you what's going to happen." For the next hour, Maya dictated orders that would withdraw hegemony forces from 3-star systems, abandon forward bases that had taken months to establish, and pull back their entire battle fleet to defensive positions. Each order was transmitted using proper command codes and authentication protocols, making them indistinguishable from legitimate strategic directives. The sector commander was forced to provide the codes under threat of death, but Maya could see the calculation in his eyes. He was cooperating because he believed this was temporary, that reinforcements would arrive soon and reverse everything. He was wrong. Maya's final transmission was sent not through military channels, but through the hegemony's own propaganda networks. It was a message that would be received by every civilian population in enemy territory, every news service, every government official who still believed the hegemony was invincible. The message was simple. The Tau Ceti fortress has fallen to 4 untrained human soldiers. If this is what untrained humans can accomplish, imagine what will happen when the Alliance sends its real warriors. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Across hegemony space, civilian populations began questioning whether their military was as invincible as they had been told. Garrison troops started looking over their shoulders, wondering if human commandos were already infiltrating their bases. Military commanders found themselves second-guessing intelligence reports and tactical assessments. Most importantly, the hegemony's own propaganda apparatus began working against them. Within hours, the story of Tau Ceti was being told in every language across dozens of worlds. 4 humans, classified as untrained and useless, had penetrated the most secure fortress in the sector and forced the withdrawal of an entire battle fleet. Maya and her team held the command center for 18 hours before Alliance reinforcements arrived to secure the base. During that time, they processed intelligence data from across the sector, coordinated with resistance groups on occupied worlds, and directed Alliance forces to strategic targets that were now undefended due to the hegemony withdrawal. By the time Colonel Morrison arrived with the relief force, the entire strategic situation in the Tau Ceti sector had fundamentally changed. The hegemony's carefully planned offensive had collapsed, not because they lacked firepower or numbers, but because 4 humans had proven that their invincible fortress wasn't invincible after all. "Chen," Morrison said as she surveyed the command center that was now flying Alliance colors. "According to my records, you're still classified as support personnel, untrained." Maya looked up from the intelligence data she had been analyzing. "Yes, ma'am. The computers haven't been updated." Morrison's smile was fierce with pride. "I don't think we'll be updating those records anytime soon. The galaxy isn't ready to know what trained humans are really capable of." 3 months later, Maya Chen was leading a company of untrained human soldiers in operations across the front lines. Her official classification never changed, but her reputation spread through both Alliance and hegemony forces like wildfire. Enemy commanders began requesting transfers rather than face the legendary human who could appear anywhere, strike without warning, and accomplish the impossible. The war was far from over, but it had fundamentally changed character. The hegemony was no longer advancing, no longer confident, no longer certain of victory. And at the center of that change was a young woman from Montana, whose grandmother had taught her that the most dangerous warriors were the ones nobody saw coming. Maya Chen remained logged as untrained in all official records. But on the front lines, where bullets flew and soldiers died and legends were born, she had become something else entirely. She had become the reason enemy mothers told their children to behave, or the untrained humans would come for them in the night. She had become the ghost in every hegemony fortress, the shadow in every tactical plan, the impossible variable that no computer could calculate or prepare for. She had become legendary, and the galaxy would never be the same.